Oh, good. Thank you. And thanks for the invitation to join you. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited.
Yeah, so happy to have you on. It's always a pleasure that I always enjoy talking to you. And like I said, Leafly really has always been one of my favorite companies. So it's great to get to hear your background and learn more about the company. Just for folks out there that may not know, can you talk a little bit about what Leafly is and what the company does?
Yeah, I describe Leafly as the place to discover cannabis. We've been around for about 10 years and are really the central point for your news and information about cannabis. And we really started from, providing a place where people could learn about cannabis and find the right cannabis for them. It was a spreadsheet where, rec and med users came and exchanged information around strains and what's best for, this particular use or this particular effect I'm looking for. And I view it as like this amazing technology and platform that we were able to build to take all of this information that consumers need to guide their cannabis journey and then create a platform where they can exchange that information too, right? We have this long history of prohibition that has prevented research and data and science to inform that. And in the absence of that, we had consumers sharing that information with one another. So we really built on that foundation of this community of people who came together to share information about cannabis, layered in, best in class reporting around cannabis, and now, augmenting that with all of the lab data and science that's been coming out over the last decade.
Right, right, and that's so true, and that's really the reason that it always was one of my favorite companies because, as you know, I started out in the industry as a bud tender.
Right.
And when patients would come into the medical dispensary, they would want to know like, what's this strain going to do? And Leafly really was always the database for getting that information. What are the different strains, the different cannabinoids and terpenes, which is just such a valuable part of the industry.
I I'm just like, think about it. Over, we have over 3,500 strains in our database. How many different form factors do we have coming to market? And then when you think about that effect for individuals, these are personalized effects. It all impacts us differently. Like you need some help. You need some help through that journey, discovering what's going to be right for you. And then through our network of licensed retailers and brands, we can start connecting people, helping you find that particular product that's going to be right for your needs and connect you with the store where you're going to be able to buy those.
Absolutely. And I also think that it's really cool that you guys noticed the need to focus on and the value, the bud tender and how valuable they are to the cannabis industry. Like you guys did that, the bud tender certifications training, which I took myself. It was really good. But then also, I also appreciate you because you donated those to our social equity scholarship program. So talk a little bit about that. And why do you feel that the bud tender is important, just in like the cannabis industry?
I think about it from our history, right? Like before you had technology helping you through this, like we were really reliant on the bud tenders, like that relationship of trust. And I think about this so much for medical patients in particular. You are looking for relief. You are going to someone to have this conversation around, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm looking for. I'm in a, if I'm a cancer patient, I'm in a vulnerable, suffering state. I got to be able to trust you. And for us, empowering bud tenders, empowering consumers with information so they can up level that conversation around what's going to be right for you, for your needs, whether that's med, whether that's rec, like that's super exciting for us.
Right, right, absolutely. And so, how long have you been at Leafly now? I know you started out as the general counsel, but then quickly moved up to being the CEO. Right? What's that transition been like?
Oh my goodness. Like, I don't know what prepares you for that. And I also don't know what that's supposed to be like, but I'm having the time of my life. So I came to Leafly in May of 2019, like you said, as general counsel. And I came out of actually 14 years at Getty Images. Getty Images, if you don't know, is photojournalism imagery company. And I came to this because of the policy issues. And this is where I love to geek out and why I love working with NCIA. You put on amazing conferences, roundtables to have this discussion of what should this industry be. So my personal passion is the policy around legalization and how do we build an industry in the right way. I also love people. I love organizational dynamics, and I love orienting people around a mission to see what we can accomplish with the tools that we have. So it's been sort of taking my love of policy and sort of the industry dynamics with that love of people and motivations in sort of transitioning to this role.
Right. Well, and policy is definitely, very critical to this industry. It really is at the center of everything. And so, that's definitely a strong background to come from. What would you say is the major difference between, like, even being a general counsel in another industry, like your work at Getty, and then in the cannabis industry?
It's like building the airplane while it's in the air because the policies and the rules aren't written. And I think that is the most exciting thing. Let me put my, putting a lawyer hat on right now. You know, I came from a space of intellectual property. Very interesting, but the laws were written decades ago. So you are working within the framework of existing laws. You can always work to change those, but there's some established policy, case law around that. That can bind your thinking and what you're able to do. But because of the rollout of cannabis being at the state by state level, like this ability to watch the early states like Washington go legal, and how that process then informs what does Illinois do based on the lessons they've learned from the other states that went before it. Like I just can't communicate the level of excitement and opportunity that presents for a policy person.
Right.
We get to learn and correct the mistakes while we go, and then we don't have to go back and retrofit them because that's really hard.
Mm-hmm. And so what was it? I know with policy, and what was it that kind of led you? How did you discover cannabis as an opportunity and something that you would end up here?
For me, Washington State being an early state to legalize, just watching this as a nerd, right? Like watching how it's developing, watching these markets, going in and shopping and experiencing. Like that was my first walk into a dispensary, and my husband and I went together, and like kid in a candy shop, how it was organized, like how people were talking about cannabis, just so historic, or nothing we've ever experienced before. So I've totally lost the thread on that question.
No, no, but it makes total sense. I'm sure like experiencing that and seeing that firsthand in Washington would totally make say like this is something that I want to do.
Well, and it's I don't know how your experience has been, but it's like you get in and you peel one layer of the onion, and then you just see that the onion has so many layers that are so rich with opportunity and like things to be curious about. Like,
That's so true.
uh,
So true.
which rabbit hole do you want to go down today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what got me here. I would take so much time, like focusing on so many different things in the industry, and just being intrigued. And the more and more I learned, and the more I got to do, just the more attracted I became and embedded in it. So I definitely know that feeling firsthand.
I'm also, I'm a little older than you, I think.
Maybe a couple days.
Just a couple of decades.
Mm-hmm.
But also starting to think about how do I want to spend my time? Where do I have an opportunity to make an impact? And this is an industry where policy has set us up to have impact, right?
Absolutely.
And like we're so close in the history to see and understand for ourselves what the devastation the war on drugs has caused. And for us to be as part of this industry and this moment where we can actually do it differently and rectify that, I just don't know any other industry that presents an opportunity like that for us.
Right. And that's a really good point too, because if you look at where we are, just like putting your policy hat on, we have a number of states. There's a lot of momentum picking up with legalization. We have the MORE Act that moved through the House last year, and then we have the Democrats controlling both houses and in the White House. How do you think that might impact policy and legislation like in 2021 and beyond?
I am so optimistic. I am so optimistic, right? We talk about this might be the only bipartisan issue we have in our country right now.
Absolutely.
It's a red issue, it's a blue issue, and it's fundamentally to me it's just validation that we know we're on the right path. I'm hugely optimistic about what will happen over the course of the next year in terms of, we need to move faster on federal legalization. It may take steps, maybe we go from decrim to expungement to federal legalization and building federal markets for this. Like, that's going to happen in due course. But my hope and my aspiration is that we have this collective acknowledgement that prohibition is a failed policy.
Mm-hmm.
And in this time where this pandemic has hurt so many, everything from the individual family on up to state budgets, this is a shining light. This is an opportunity.
Absolutely. And yeah, and just to that note, I think it is important to recognize that, especially in this industry, we have the opportunity to get it right and do it differently, like you said. And that's I even love seeing you as an Asian woman being the CEO of Leafly. Because that's something when you look at corporate America, we need to see more of, right? Like it's just not something that exists. What's that journey been like for you? To be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Right, we'll get that.
You want a minute? They need to see. I want to say.
All right, say hi, Miss Yoko.
Hi.
Say hi.
Student. What's your name?
What's your name, sweetie? Aria. Aria, talking to Miss Yoko. She's the CEO of Leafly.
It's very nice to meet you.
So while I'm opening the fruit snacks, sorry, Miss Yoko. So I was, So what what's your experience been like? Being a woman and a minority as a CEO in the role.
It is, like I'm 5 months into it, and it's an interesting one where you do realize, and I come from a general counsel world where a lot of women over the course of my career have worked their way up to that seat. But it wasn't without many, many moments of looking around you and going, oh, I guess no one else looks like me. And I think, like I look at that and yeah, that is true. Like that needs to change. But I also see an industry, the other thing I love about cannabis is we have this potential and it is so inclusive. It can be so inclusive. And let me just be one of many to come. And what can I do to make sure those doors are open, that I don't look around in 5 years and go, I'm an anomaly.
Right.
So, it's, yep, been there. What are we going to do about it? How do we change this? How do we support one another? How do we pull each other up?
Absolutely. That's the mentality that you have to have. And, it's so critical you being at a company like where you are, because technology is such an important role.
Technology is not only the important role, technology is the potential tool by which we can equalize so much. Like we can be intentional about how we use technology to solve these issues. And to me, it's like we're just scratching the surface of that. And I just can't wait to explore more on that front.
Absolutely. And so, with Leafly, what are some of the ways that, because I know well how it works, but what are some of the ways that you think business owners are using Leafly to get a competitive advantage?
Oh, I think, look, the audience that Leafly brings is just unprecedented. And that's 10 years of hard work of publishing and, research and writing and making those investments and just building this, um, the highest quality content and news and information for consumers. And I think that, that manifests in the number of consumers who are coming to read about cannabis. And for us, that's just going to explode, right? Like we know there are people who are totally into cannabis and have been reading about this for years, but as legalization, spreads across this country, we see that the interest in cannabis rises, and we're here to provide that information for you. So when you talk about bringing all of these new consumers to cannabis, it's a really compelling proposition for all of the local stores and brands to say, I got to get in front of that audience. And our job is to connect those two communities, right? Like so many of these retailers, I'm so inspired by their stories of why they came to cannabis. I was just chatting with a school teacher from Portland who cashed out his 401k savings and he wanted to build a new dispensary in his community in Northeast Portland. And those are the stories that motivate me. And if we can help them connect with all of these people in Portland or in the area who are looking for and shopping for the right cannabis for them, like that's what technology empowers. That's
Right.
what we offer to retailers.
Right. Absolutely. And what advice would you share with other people that want to get into the industry, whether it's other attorneys that want to find a path there, or just for other women or minorities that want to find a place in the cannabis industry based on your experience?
Just start talking to people. Go into your dispensary. Like, this is such a passionate, like, the people who come to this industry are so passionate and so happy to share what they know about this space. And it was such a marked contrast for me starting in this industry in May of 2019, where there was fellowship, and I think that's what the plant engenders. There was fellowship in the industry, there was fellowship in the legal community, where people were happy to share what they've learned along the way. And I think, without overstating it, I think that sort of comes with this when you go through a struggle of trying to get things off the ground. Like, you're not there trying to close it off for everyone else. Let's do this together. Let me share what I've learned. So I think what you'll find is, make those inroads, connect with your dispensaries, connect with the other lawyers you see in this space. Just, people love talking about their experience in this space. And I think there's this other collaboration where we all recognize we're not going to solve it alone.
So true. That's so true, because that's how I got my job, by being a patient in the dispensary. That's how I got here at NCIA, by meeting Kaliko. Of course, we can't go out in the world anymore, but networking and just getting to know people, like you said, that is really the culture of the plant.
What I love about your story to hear is, like, you've been in marketing, right? But you took that and said, well, I'm passionate about cannabis. I'm going to go learn about cannabis. And then for you to bring this expertise back to our space now, and then expand that and go, okay, well, I'm passionate about marketing. I'm passionate about cannabis. Really want to dig deep on social equity. Like, and I've been so impressed with what you've built, at NCIA over this short window of time. But, like, those are the opportunities. We're not so big that you're so confined to, you got to go this path. Like, come in and define your path, leverage that.
Absolutely. And that's really the value of, diversity, right? So many different perspectives, the value in my perspective, yours, and that's what makes things great. And, the more we have that, I think the better we are.
100%.
Hmm. So, tell us what's anything cool that Leafly's working on, anything next that you can share with us?
Ooh. Uh, it- what can we? I know, like, now I feel put on the spot. I'm so
Oh,
excited
good.
about.
Because I don't know what you can say. If you may not be
I
able to
know, I
say.
know. Like, I'm on live stream here. Let me talk about this in a bigger sense of this journey that we've been on. Leafly has been known for years as the place you go for news and information, right? But that journey stops there. And for us to be able to transform that from a single stop destination to then saying, I've taken you through your discovery path. I've helped you find what it is that's going to serve your needs, but to then extend that into connecting with your retailers and brands to start identifying what's right for you and what's available for you. Like, that's an entire journey. And that's how what I want to create, what we want to create for our Leafly community. Let us give you a journey from start to finish. Let us make engaging with the legal cannabis market easy by empowering you with the news and information that you need, and then connecting you and building this community of licensed retailers and brands and helping their businesses grow. Like, that's sort of, and that has a lot of, like, there's no silver bullet as to what, makes that the perfect journey, but that's where we're really focused, of creating and making that whole process easy, because
Right.
it's not easy.
Not at all, especially for new people coming into the market. So many
And,
different products, they don't know where to start.
I spend a lot of time talking with people who are like, they don't know, these are potential consumers who don't even know indica, sativa, and hybrid are. So like if you think about that's the starting point of their journey, what do you have to give them to get up to the point where they can decide which strain, which form factor, where do I get it?
Right.
So like bringing them up that ramp, like that's super important. That's what we need to do as an industry to really sort of take advantage of the real opportunity that's here.
Right. And since I'm talking to the CEO of the company of that place that probably knows strains better than anybody, have to ask, do you have a favorite strain, or do you, or indica, sativa, do you, what's your preference?
I'm gonna okay, so where should we start? Right, I can tell you the strains that are life changing for me, but they're like right now, and I have a long history here of I I was a long distance runner. I had to kind of have to say was because I haven't run a marathon in a number of years.
Like full
But
marathons.
oh yeah,
Nice.
love distance running. It has an impact on the body. You are pounding, 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 and so chronic pain is a regular part of life. But the things you go through for the things you're passionate about, and for me, discovering the harlequins and the sour tsunamis as just a regular part of maintaining my body has been life changing.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's relaxation and sleep or actual pain management, like that's become a regular part of my daily practice to just be, and that's helped me like reduce what other prescriptions I'm taking. Now that's a totally personal journey, and that's something you have to work through with your healthcare provider, but that's been life changing for me. The other piece for me has really been I want to, I'm a user of our own platform. Like I am constantly researching new strains, reading about them. Where are they? What are the form factors? And we've been in runts phase
Mm-hmm.
since Leafly announced strain of the year in December.
Yeah.
So runts, pink runts, white runts, and I just like seeing what everyone else thinks is awesome. And we
Mm-hmm.
can see that in our detail, right? Like we can see that in our search query of which strains rise
Right.
to the top.
Right. Yeah, that's I mean that's such important data, like you said, for businesses to have.
Oh yeah. What are your favorites?
You know what? I switch it up. I really don't even have his favorite strain. I love them all pretty. I'm like a I guess it's not a good connoisseur answer, but man,
Oh, you live your job.
right, like
It's about the diversity.
my favorite strain that we have here in the Maryland dispensaries is one called Garlic Cookies, and that's by Grassroots. That's my favorite one here.
All right, I'm going to be reading about that.
Yep, it's on your platform. It's on Leafly. You'll see it. But that's a really good one. But the Yoko, this was definitely fun. Like I said, I always love catching up with you. We Can you tell us a little bit? Of course, you guys can download the Leafly app in the Apple Store and Google Store, but where else can people follow and get more information?
Oh, thank you so much for asking that question. Leafly.com, one-stop shop, and absolutely our apps, both iOS and our Play app, our Google Store app. The one thing I'll say is, look, this is what, we talked about this industry being hard. That's one of the challenges, right? Like you can't online order through the apps because of platform rules right now. So if you want to order cannabis through the Leafly platform, you really need to go to our website. Whether you could, you can use your web mobile browser as well. But that's just one thing to understand about our apps. Like dig into those, mark your favorite strain, find that dispensary that works for you. You can follow them on Leafly where you can get regular updates. We've seen a lot of traction with deals. Get in with your local dispensary, find the stores you want to support,
Mm-hmm.
and start following them. Like that's a big way to just keep in touch with your community. Can I put a plug in for something else I'm super excited about, given the subject? Oh, I don't know if I can talk about this. I'm super excited about the work to come and really how we start to shape out our social justice and social impact initiatives.
Yes.
And it's such an important, it's not just an important part, it's not just an imperative, but it's the fun part. It's the part where we actually get to A girlfriend of mine calls it your obituary work. Like, what is the thing that we're going to look back on as individuals who were in this space this early on and say we made a difference? So I'm really excited about the work that we've been doing internally as an organization around this, but just also understanding we have a role to play in education and making sure people understand the history here and why this is so special and why we need to be so intentional in how we go about building this industry.
Absolutely. And like I said, I already know that you're working on stuff, but I'm glad to hear you talk and share a little bit about it, but we'll definitely be looking forward to learning more about, the work that you're doing. And hopefully we'll catch up soon.
I am looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Well, Yoko, appreciate you coming through. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.